Captain Ji-hoon Park stood on the bridge of the Aurora's Dream, watching the stars flicker in the distance. Something was wrong with the galaxy. Stars that should burn bright looked dim and weak. Some areas of space showed no light at all, just empty darkness where solar systems used to be. "Captain, we're getting a distress signal," said Lieutenant Soman Choi from her station. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls. "It's coming from the Velkari homeworld." Ji-hoon frowned. The Velkari were one of the most advanced species in the galaxy. Their crystal cities could float in space, and their technology was thousands of years ahead of human science. If they were calling for help, something terrible was happening. "Put it through," Ji-hoon said. The main screen showed a tall, elegant woman with pale blue skin and silver hair. Her eyes looked tired and afraid. "This is Chancellor Yuna Sato of the Velkari Confederation. We need immediate help. The Voidborn have begun their final attack. Our defenses are failing." Dr. Minji Kim, the ship's chief scientist, stepped forward. She was young but brilliant, with short black hair and curious eyes. "Captain, the Galactic Council warned us about the Voidborn. They said humans shouldn't get involved because we don't understand the danger." "What exactly are the Voidborn?" asked Engineer Seokjin Lee. He was a practical man who liked to understand how things worked. Chancellor Yuna's image flickered as if something was interfering with the signal. "They are ancient creatures that eat light itself. They turn entire star systems into dead, empty voids. For thousands of years, they have been slowly consuming the galaxy. Now they are making their final move." Ji-hoon looked at his crew. The Aurora's Dream was an exploration ship, not a warship. They had basic weapons and shields, but nothing that could fight cosmic monsters. "Still, people were in trouble. How long do you have?" Ji-hoon asked. "Days, maybe hours. Our strongest energy barriers can barely hold them back. Every species in the galaxy is preparing for the end." Yuna's voice became desperate. "Please, even if you cannot help us fight, maybe you can help evacuate our people." Engineer Taehyun. Oh spoke up from his console. "Captain, our ship's computer shows massive energy readings from the Velkari system. Whatever's happening there, it's bigger than anything we've ever seen." Ji-hoon made his decision. "Set course for the Velkari homeworld. Maximum speed." "Sir," the Galactic Council specifically said, began Soman. "The Galactic Council isn't here," Ji-hoon said firmly. "People need help. That's enough for me." The journey to Velkari space took 3 days. As they got closer, the crew could see what the Voidborn had done. Entire regions of space were completely black. No stars, no planets, nothing. It was as if someone had taken a giant eraser and wiped away parts of the universe. "How is that possible?" whispered Dr. Minji, staring at the empty areas on their sensors. "I don't know," said Seokjin. "Our science books never mentioned anything that could destroy light itself." When they reached the Velkari homeworld, they found a massive crystal city floating near a dying star. The star flickered weakly, sometimes bright, sometimes dim, as if something was slowly draining its energy. Chancellor Yuna met them at the docking bay. She was beautiful but clearly exhausted. Dark circles under her eyes showed she hadn't slept in days. "Thank you for coming. I know your species is young, but perhaps fresh eyes can see something we have missed." She led them through the crystal corridors of the city. The walls should have been glowing with bright energy, but everything looked dim and gray. Velkari citizens moved through the halls like shadows, their usual graceful movements slow and tired. "Show me your defenses," Ji-hoon said. Yuna brought them to a massive chamber filled with complex machines. Beams of pale blue energy shot out toward space, creating a barrier around the city. "These are our strongest light projectors. They generate enough energy to power a small star." Dr. Minji studied the machines with wonder. "This technology is incredible. How long can the barriers hold?" "Not long enough," said a new voice. An old Velkari scientist approached them. "I am Dr. Haywin. I have studied the Voidborn for most of my life. They adapt to any light source we create. Our barriers grow weaker every hour." Seokjin walked over to examine the energy projectors. "These are amazing, but they're so complex. On Earth, we just use simple electric lights or fire." Dr. Haywin looked confused. "Fire? You mean combustion?" "That is very primitive." "Maybe," said Seokjin with a shrug, "but it works." Suddenly, alarms began blaring throughout the city. The lights dimmed even more as the barriers flickered. "They're coming," whispered Yuna. "The Voidborn scouts have found us." Through the crystal windows, they could see shapes moving in space. They looked like living shadows, flowing and shifting like black water. As they touched the energy barriers, the blue light began to fade. All our technology, all our knowledge, and we can't stop them, said Dr. Haywen sadly. Jihoon watched the shadow creatures pressing against the barriers. They moved like they were alive, reaching toward the city with dark tentacles. Have you tried working with other species? Combining different types of technology? The Galactic Council has been trying for centuries, Yuna replied. Every species has their own advanced light sources, but nothing works. The Voidborn consume all artificial energy. What about natural light? Asked Dr. Minji. Stars, for example? Stars die when the Voidborn feed on them. Nothing natural can resist them. But as Jihoon watched the creatures outside, he noticed something strange. The small emergency lights on his crew's spacesuit seemed to hurt the shadows when they got close. The creatures pulled back from his people even though they pressed forward against the Velkari barriers. That's interesting, he said quietly. The battle outside continued through the night. The Velkari fought bravely, but their barriers grew weaker. The shadow creatures grew bolder, reaching further into the city's protection. As dawn approached, if there could be dawn in this dimming system, Jihoon made a decision. We need to get back to our ship. I want to run some tests. Tests on what? Asked Yuna. On the difference between your light and ours. Hope flickered in her tired eyes. You think there might be a difference? Maybe. Your technology is incredibly advanced, but it's still artificial. Humans have always had a special relationship with natural light and fire. It might not mean anything, but it's worth checking. As they prepared to leave, Dr. Minji took readings from the Velkari equipment, while Seokjin studied their energy systems. The shadow creatures continued to press against the weakening barriers, but they seemed to avoid getting too close to the human crew. Whatever you're thinking, Captain, said Yuna as they reached the docking bay. Please hurry, we don't have much time left. Jihoon looked back at the crystal city, its lights growing dimmer by the hour. We'll figure this out. Humans might be primitive compared to you, but sometimes simple solutions work best. As the Aurora's dream pulled away from the Velkari city, the crew could see the shadow creatures gathering in larger numbers. The final battle was coming, and somehow, humanity might hold the key to winning it. Back on the Aurora's dream, Dr. Minji Kim worked frantically in her laboratory. She had samples of Velkari energy readings and recordings of how the shadow creatures behaved around different light sources. Something was definitely different about human technology, but she couldn't figure out what. Seokjin, come look at this, she called to the engineer. Seokjin Lee put down his tools and walked over to her workstation. What did you find? Look at these energy patterns. Minji pointed to 2 different waveforms on her screen. This is the Velkari light barrier, and this is from our ship's emergency lighting system. The Velkari pattern was smooth and perfect, like a mathematical equation. The human pattern looked rougher, with small variations and irregularities. Ours looks messy compared to theirs, Seokjin said. Exactly, but the shadow creatures avoid our messy light and attack their perfect light. Why would that be? Engineer Tae-hyun-oh joined them carrying a simple flashlight. Maybe because our light isn't really artificial? Both scientists looked at him with confusion. Think about it, Tae-hyun continued. The Velkari create light using pure energy manipulation. It's completely artificial. But humans learn to make light by burning things, wood, oil, gas. Even our electric lights work by heating up metal filaments until they glow, just like fire. Dr. Minji's eyes grew wide. You're saying our technology is still based on combustion principles? Not just based on them, said Tae-hyun. Our brains evolved around fire. For millions of years, humans gathered around fires for warmth, cooking, and protection. Fire is part of who we are. Seokjin was getting excited. So when we make light, even electric light, we're still making fire in a way? Maybe the shadow creatures can tell the difference, suggested Tae-hyun. Dr. Minji started typing rapidly on her computer. I need to test this theory. Captain? Captain Jihoon Park arrived in the laboratory a few minutes later, along with Lieutenant Somin Choi. What have you found? We think human light sources might actually hurt the Voidborn, Dr. Minji explained. But we need to test it safely. How do we do that without putting the ship in danger? Asked Jihoon. Tae-hyun held up his flashlight. The sensors show there are small shadow creatures near our ship, probably scouts. If I'm right, this simple flashlight should be able to drive them away. Somin looked worried. And if you're wrong? Then we find out very quickly, said Tae-hyun with a nervous smile. Captain Ji-hoon thought for a moment. Do it. But everyone stays ready to jump to faster than light speed if things go wrong. They moved to the ship's main observation deck. Through the thick glass windows they could see small dark shapes floating in space around them. The shapes moved like living smoke, reaching toward the ship with thin tentacles. Tae-hyun turned on his flashlight and pointed it toward the window. The effect was immediate and shocking. The shadow creature closest to the light jerked backward as if it had been hit by a weapon. Where the light beam touched it, the creature's body seemed to bubble and smoke. "It's working," shouted Dr. Minji. The injured shadow creature fled, moving faster than anything they had ever seen. The other scout creatures quickly followed, disappearing into the darkness of space. "A simple flashlight," whispered Soman in amazement. "The most advanced civilizations in the galaxy can't stop these things, but a human flashlight hurts them." Seok-jin was already making plans. "We need to test different types of human light sources. LED lights, incandescent bulbs, lasers, even real fire if we can manage it safely. I'll contact the Valkyrie immediately," said Captain Ji-hoon. "They need to know about this." But before he could send a message, their communication system came alive with emergency signals. Multiple distress calls were coming from all over the galaxy. The final Voidborn attack had begun. "Captain," called pilot Kyung-soo Nam from the bridge. "We're getting reports that the shadow creatures are attacking every major system simultaneously. The Thaxian Empire, the Quantum Collective, even Earth Command is under assault." Ji-hoon's heart sank. "Earth? How long until the creatures reach our home?" "Unknown, sir. But based on their speed, maybe days." Dr. Minji was still analyzing the data from their test. "Captain, I think I understand why our light works. Look at this." She showed them a detailed scan of the shadow creature that had been hit by the flashlight. "These aren't just monsters. They're actually very ancient, probably older than most stars. My readings suggest they existed before the universe had much natural light." "What does that mean?" asked Soman. "It means they're not used to the kind of light that comes from burning things. When the first stars formed, they created light through nuclear fusion, basically giant fires in space. The Voidborn evolved to feed on artificial energy, but they never adapted to handle the original firelight." Seok-jin was nodding. "And humans are the only species that still makes fire-based light." "Exactly. Every other advanced civilization moved beyond combustion millions of years ago. They use pure energy manipulation, but humans still remember fire even in our most advanced technology." Captain Ji-hoon felt a mixture of hope and fear. "So you're saying humanity might be the key to stopping these creatures?" "I think we might be the only ones who can stop them," Dr. Minji said quietly. Their conversation was interrupted by an incoming message from Chancellor Yuna. Her image appeared on the main screen, but she looked even more desperate than before. "Captain Park, our barriers have failed. The main Voidborn force is surrounding our city. We have maybe an hour before they break through our final defenses." "Chancellor, we've made a discovery," Ji-hoon said quickly. "Human light sources can actually hurt the Voidborn. We just drove off several scout creatures with a simple flashlight." Yuna's eyes widened with disbelief. "That's impossible. We've tried every type of energy weapon in the galaxy." "Not like this," said Dr. Minji, stepping into view of the camera. "Your weapons use pure energy. Our lights are based on fire and combustion. The creatures can't absorb or resist that type of light." "Are you certain?" "We just tested it. It worked." Hope flickered across Yuna's face. "Then please hurry. Bring every light source your ship has. Maybe together we can hold them off long enough to plan a real defense." As the Aurora's dream changed course back toward the Valkyrie homeworld, the crew worked frantically to prepare every light source on the ship. Flashlights, emergency beacons, work lamps, even the tiny lights from their personal devices. Everything that could produce illumination. "This is crazy," said Salman, as she helped gather equipment. "We're about to fight cosmic monsters with camping gear." "Sometimes the old ways are the best ways," replied Tae-hyun, checking the power levels on a maintenance light. Dr. Minji was sending messages to Earth Command and every human ship in the galaxy, explaining their discovery. If she was right, humanity's primitive relationship with fire might be the galaxy's only hope against the ancient darkness. As they approached the Valkyrie system, they could see the massive shadow army surrounding the Crystal City. Thousands of dark creatures flowed through space like a living storm, pressing against the weakening energy barriers. "Remember, Captain Ji-hoon told his crew. We're not just fighting for the Velkari. If these creatures win here, they'll consume the entire galaxy, including Earth. The final battle was about to begin, and humanity's oldest tool, fire and light, would face the universe's oldest enemy. News of humanity's discovery spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. Within hours, every major species had received Dr. Minji Kim's research data. The response was mixed. Some believed, others thought it was impossible, and many were simply too desperate to care whether it was true or not. Admiral Jisoo Chen received the news while commanding the human defense fleet near the outer colonies. She was a tough woman with gray hair and sharp eyes, known for making quick decisions under pressure. When the message arrived from the Aurora's dream, she immediately changed course toward the core systems. All ships, this is Admiral Chen, she announced over the fleet communications. We're heading to assist Captain Park and the Velkari. Every human vessel in the galaxy needs to join this fight. Her second-in-command, Commander Donghyun Kang, looked concerned. Admiral, we're talking about fighting creatures that have destroyed entire civilizations. Our ships weren't designed for this kind of battle. Maybe not, Admiral Jisoo replied, but apparently our flashlights were. Meanwhile, at the Galactic Council headquarters, ancient Counselor Heiyun Vex was having trouble believing the reports. The counselor belonged to a species that had evolved on a world with 3 suns, and they had mastered energy manipulation for over 50,000 years. Primitive combustion? The counselor said, their translucent body shimmering with disbelief. These humans claim that burning organic matter can defeat the Voidborn? It's ridiculous, but the reports kept coming. Human merchant captain Kyung-soo Nam had successfully defended a refugee convoy using nothing but emergency flares. The shadow creatures that attacked his ships fled when exposed to the simple chemical flames. 3 separate incidents now confirm the human claims, reported the Council's scientific advisor. Perhaps we should consider that their primitive methods might actually be effective. Counselor Heiyun was about to dismiss the idea when another message arrived. This one was from Chancellor Yuna of the Velkari, who had never been wrong about anything in her long career. The humans are right. Yuna's message stated simply, I have seen it myself. Their light sources cause the Voidborn physical pain. We need human assistance immediately, or we will all be consumed. Back in the Velkari system, Captain Ji-hoon Park and his crew were fighting for their lives. The Aurora's dream flew circles around the Crystal City, using every light they had to drive back the shadow creatures. It was working, but barely. Captain, we can't keep this up much longer, reported engineer Seokjin Lee. Our power cells are draining fast. Dr. Minji was monitoring the shadow creatures' behavior from her station. They're learning. Each time we hit them with light, they adapt a little. They're getting harder to hurt. Then we need to hit them harder, said Lieutenant So-min Choi. She had been thinking about the problem all day. What if we combined human light sources with alien technology? Use their power systems to make our light stronger. Engineer Taehyun Oh's eyes lit up. That could work. The Velkari have massive energy generators. If we could modify them to power human-style lights instead of their energy beams. Chancellor Yuna, who had been coordinating the defense from the city, immediately approved the plan. Take whatever you need. Our scientist will help you. Working together, human and Velkari engineers began modifying the Crystal City's power systems. Instead of generating pure energy beams, they rewired the generators to power thousands of simple, incandescent bulbs, the kind humans had been using for centuries. The change was dramatic. When the modified lights came online, the shadow creatures screamed, an awful sound that seemed to come from empty space itself. They pulled back from the city as if they had been burned. It's working, shouted Dr. Minji. The combination is even more effective than we hoped, but their celebration was short-lived. Sensors showed that the main Voidborn army was approaching, millions of shadow creatures led by something enormous and ancient. We need more ships, said Captain Ji-hoon. This city can't fight that army alone. His prayers were answered when Admiral Jisoo Chen arrived with the entire human defense fleet. 50 ships of various sizes, from massive carriers to small fighters, all equipped with every light source they could carry. Sorry we're late to the party, Admiral Jisoo said over the communications. We brought some extra flashlights. Behind the human fleet came ships from other species, the Thaxian Empire's warrior vessels, the Quantum Collective's research ships, and even some independent merchants who had heard about the battle. They couldn't fight the Voidborn directly, but they could provide support for the humans. "This is unprecedented," said Commander Dong-hyun, as he watched the mixed fleet take formation, humans leading a galactic alliance. 6 months ago, most of these species thought we were too primitive to join their councils. "Funny how being primitive becomes an advantage sometimes," replied Admiral Jisoo. The battle plan was complex but necessary. Human ships would form the front line, using their lights to attack the shadow creatures directly. The alien vessels would provide shields, weapon support against any physical Voidborn constructs, and emergency evacuation if needed. Dr. Minji had been studying the approaching enemy force and made a disturbing discovery. "Admiral, that large creature leading them, it's not just bigger than the others. It's fundamentally different. My scans suggest it might be some kind of Voidborn queen or central intelligence. Can our lights hurt it?" asked Captain Ji-hoon. "I don't know. It's so old and powerful that it might have defenses the smaller creatures don't have." Engineer Tae-hyun had been working on a new idea. "What if we don't just use individual lights? What if we coordinate all human light sources to focus on one target at the same time? Like a giant spotlight?" asked Somin. "Exactly. Every human ship, every modified Valkyrie generator, even personal flashlights, all aimed at the same creature simultaneously." Admiral Jisoo considered the plan. "It's risky. If we focus everything on one target and it doesn't work, we'll be defenseless against the rest of the army. But if it does work," said Captain Ji-hoon, "we might be able to destroy their leader and break their coordination." Chancellor Yuna joined the planning session from her command center. "The Valkyrie will support this plan. Our sensors can help coordinate the targeting, and our ships can provide protective barriers while you focus your attack." As the final preparations began, messages arrived from across the galaxy. Human colonies were gathering every light source they could find. Other species were modifying their technology to support human light generation methods. Even Earth itself was preparing to send reinforcements. "The
galaxy is finally working together,"
observed Somin as she watched the diverse fleet prepare for battle. "It only took the end of the universe to make it happen," replied Tae-hyun dryly. The massive Voidborn army was now visible to the naked eye, a Phi-Do wall of living darkness stretching across space. At its center, the ancient creature pulsed with anti-light, a darkness so deep it seemed to bend space around it. "All ships, this is Admiral Chen," came the announcement. "Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves. Every living being in the galaxy is counting on us. Humanity might be young compared to these other species, but we've got something they don't. We remember the first fire that ever burned." As the Shadow Army approached, thousands of human lights began to shine in the darkness. Simple flashlights and complex generators, ancient incandescent bulbs and modern LEDs, all powered by the same evolutionary memory that had once gathered early humans around campfires. The final battle for the galaxy was about to begin, and it would be won or lost by the light of human fire. The combined fleet moved into position as the Voidborn army approached. Admiral Jisoo Chen watched from the bridge of her flagship, the Prometheus Fire, as thousands of shadow creatures flowed toward them like a living storm. At the center of the dark mass, the ancient creature pulsed with terrible power. "All human ships prepare for coordinated light attack," Admiral Jisoo announced. "Target the smaller creatures first. We need to thin their numbers before we face their leader." Captain Ji-hoon Park positioned the Aurora's Dream on the front line. His crew had become experts at fighting the Voidborn, and other human captains looked to him for guidance. "Remember," Ji-hoon told his crew, "these creatures have been terrorizing the galaxy for thousands of years. Today that ends." The first wave of shadow creatures reached the fleet's outer perimeter. Immediately, human ships opened fire, not with energy weapons, but with light. Thousands of beams from flashlights, work lamps, and modified ship lighting systems cut through space like swords of fire. The effect was devastating. Shadow creatures that had shrugged off the most advanced alien weapons screamed and dissolved when touched by human light. The darkness began to retreat. "It's working," shouted Dr. Minji Kim from her station. "They can't handle our light sources at all." But the celebration was brief. The Voidborn adapted quickly, sending waves of smaller creatures to sacrifice themselves and drain the human power sources. For every shadow creature destroyed, 2 more took its place. Engineer Dong-hyun Kang, commanding the human cruiser Solar Wind, Noticed something disturbing. Admiral, our power levels are dropping faster than expected. These creatures are somehow draining energy even from a distance. Switch to backup power systems, Admiral Jisoo ordered, and activate all emergency lighting. The battle raged for hours. Human ships darted between massive Velkari crystal vessels and sleek Thaxian fighters, their simple lights carving paths through the Shadow Army. The alien ships provided cover and support, their advanced shields protecting the humans from physical attacks by void-born constructs. Engineer Taehyun Oh, working frantically on the Aurora's dream, made a crucial discovery. Captain, I've been analyzing the energy drain patterns. The shadow creatures aren't just feeding on our power. They're trying to understand our light sources. What do you mean? Asked Captain Ji-hoon. They learn from every attack. Each time we hit them, they become slightly more resistant. But there's something they can't figure out. Dr. Minji looked up from her instruments. The combustion element. They can copy our electrical systems, but they can't understand the fire-based principles behind our technology. So we need more fire, said Lieutenant Somin Choi. Real fire. Taehyun grinned. I've been working on something. What if we use our ship's fusion engines as weapons? They're basically controlled nuclear fires. Captain Ji-hoon considered the idea. That's extremely dangerous. If we overload the engines, we'll either destroy the shadow creatures or destroy ourselves, Taehyun finished. But doing nothing means we all die anyway. The captain made his decision. Do it. All human ships prepare to weaponize your fusion engines. Meanwhile, Chancellor Yuna coordinated the alien support ships from her crystal city. Velkari vessels, focus your shields on protecting the human ships. Thaxian fighters, eliminate any physical void-born constructs that get through their light barriers. The massive ancient creature at the center of the Shadow Army finally began to move. As it approached, space itself seemed to darken around it. Stars in the distance flickered and went out. My scans show it's over 1 kilometer long, reported Dr. Minji. And it's incredibly old, possibly from before the first stars formed. Before stars? Asked Somin. How is that possible? The universe wasn't always full of light, Dr. Minji explained. In the very beginning, everything was dark. This creature might be from that time. Admiral Jisoo studied the readings from her command ship. If it's that ancient, it would have existed before combustion, before fire, before anything burned. No wonder it can't handle our light sources. The ancient creature reached the battle zone and released a wave of pure darkness. Human ships found their lights dimming as the anti-light washed over them. Several smaller vessels lost power completely. It's too strong, reported Commander Dong-hyun. Our lights can't penetrate its darkness field. But Captain Ji-hoon had an idea. All ships focus every light source on a single point. Coordinate through the Velkari targeting systems. We'll punch through its defenses with concentrated firelight. Engineer Taehyun activated the Aurora's Dream's modified fusion engine. Instead of propelling the ship forward, the nuclear fire was channeled into a massive light beam. Across the fleet, other human ships did the same. 50 fusion torches, 1,000 flashlights, 10,000 emergency beacons, and countless other human light sources all focused on one spot on the ancient creature's body. The result was spectacular. Where the concentrated light struck, the shadow creature's flesh began to burn with actual fire. For the first time in millions of years, the ancient being felt pain. But as the light touched it, something unexpected happened. Instead of simply being destroyed, the creature began to change. The burning darkness started to glow with a different kind of light. Not the harsh electrical glow of alien technology, but something warmer and more natural. Captain, said Dr. Minji with wonder in her voice, it's not just a monster. Look at these readings. On her screen, the internal structure of the creature was becoming visible. Instead of a simple predator, they could see complex patterns, almost like neural networks or data storage systems. It's intelligent, whispered Somin. Really intelligent. The creature's attack stopped. Its massive form hung in space, covered in patches of warm light where the human fire beams had touched it. When it spoke, its voice came through every communication system in the fleet simultaneously. Fire, the voice said, ancient and tired. I remember fire. I remember when the universe first learned to burn. Admiral Jisoo opened a channel to the creature. What are you? I am what remains of the first gardeners, the creature replied. Before stars, before light, we tended the darkness between worlds. But when the first fires ignited in space, we forgot our purpose. We became hungry for the light we had lost. Dr. Minji was rapidly analyzing the creature's communications. Admiral, I think the Voidborn aren't invaders. They're the universe's original life forms, corrupted by eons of living in darkness. You bring us memory, the ancient being continued. Your firelight reminds us of what we once were, before hunger consumed our purpose. Across the Shadow Army, other creatures began to stop their attacks. Where human light touched them, they too began to remember something long forgotten. We do not wish to consume, the ancient creature said. We wish to serve. To tend the spaces between stars as we did in the beginning. Admiral Jisoo made a decision that would change the galaxy forever. Then serve. Help us bring light back to the dark places. Work with us instead of against us. The ancient being pulsed with newfound warmth. Yes, we remember now. We are gardeners, not devourers. And you, fire builders, will teach us to tend the light as we once tended the darkness. As the battle ended, the shadow creatures began to transform. They didn't disappear, but instead became something new. Beings of controlled darkness that could shape space and create conditions for new stars to form. The galaxy had been saved not through destruction, but through remembrance. Humanity's gift of fire had reminded the universe's eldest children of their original purpose. 6 months after the Great Battle, the galaxy looked completely different. Where once there had been dead, lightless voids, new stars were beginning to shine. The reformed Voidborn, now calling themselves the Tenders, worked alongside human engineers to restore light to the darkest corners of space. Dr. Minji Kim stood on the observation deck of the new research station New Dawn, watching a remarkable sight. A massive tender, its dark form now shot through with veins of warm light, was carefully shaping cosmic gas into the beginnings of a new solar system. Beside it, a human ship provided steady illumination to guide the delicate work. It's still amazing to watch, said engineer Taehyun-oh, joining her at the window. 6 months ago, we thought they were trying to destroy everything. Now they're creating new worlds. The transformation hadn't been easy. Many tenders had been so corrupted by eons of hunger that they couldn't remember their original purpose. It took patient work by human psychologists and alien scientists to help them recover their memories. Some tenders were too far gone and had to be peacefully contained, but most had successfully returned to their ancient role as gardeners of space. Captain Jihoon Park walked into the observation lounge, carrying a cup of coffee and looking tired but satisfied. He had been appointed as the first human ambassador to the Tenders, a job that required him to travel constantly between human space and the restoration zones. How's the project going? Minji asked him. Better than expected, Jihoon replied. The Tenders have agreed to help us restore the Zephyrian system. It was one of the first systems they consumed, so bringing it back will be symbolic for both sides. The Zephyrian system had been legendary for its beauty before the Voidborn consumed it. 7 planets with rings of pure crystal, orbiting a blue-white star that sang harmonics across space. When the darkness took it, the entire galaxy mourned. How long will the restoration take? Asked Taehyun. The Tenders say about 2 years for a basic star, maybe 5 years to rebuild the planets. They can't create life, but they can make worlds where life can grow. Their conversation was interrupted by an announcement over the station's communication system. All personnel, please welcome Admiral Jisoo Chen and Chancellor Yuna Sato. The 3 friends made their way to the main conference room, where Admiral Jisoo and Chancellor Yuna were meeting with representatives from every major species in the galaxy. The topic was the formation of the new Coalition of Light, a government that would coordinate restoration efforts across the galaxy. The Galactic Council served us well for thousands of years, Admiral Jisoo was saying. But we need something new for this new era. Humans and Tenders working together have shown us possibilities we never imagined. Counselor Haeun Vex, the ancient leader who had once dismissed human technology as primitive, nodded in agreement. The coalition must have both political and scientific branches. We need to study the Tenders' abilities while also learning from human firelight technology. Chancellor Yuna spoke next. The Velkari pledge our full support. We've already begun modifying our cities to use human-style lighting systems. Our people find the firelight more comfortable than our old energy systems. Dr. Minji raised her hand. If I may, we've made some interesting discoveries about why human light works so well against the original Voidborn corruption. She activated a holographic display showing the structure of different light sources. Every species in the galaxy developed lighting technology based on pure energy manipulation. But humans developed fire first, then built all our later technology on those same principles. Even our most advanced lights still work by heating something until it glows. And that's important because, asked a representative from the Thaxian Empire. Because fire is the universe's most natural form of light, Dr. Minji explained. Stars are basically giant fires. When the tenders were created at the beginning of time, they were designed to work with natural firelight, not artificial energy. That's why they could absorb alien weapons but not human flashlights. Engineer Seokjin Lee, who had been quietly working on technical plans, looked up from his tablet. We figured out how to teach other species to make firelight. It's not just about the technology. It's about understanding combustion at a fundamental level. Over the following weeks, human teachers spread across the galaxy, showing alien engineers how to build lights that worked on fire principles. It was strange to see species that had mastered faster than light travel, learning how to make simple incandescent bulbs. But the results were remarkable. Not only could these firelights communicate safely with the tenders, but they also provided a warmth and comfort that pure energy systems never had. Many alien species reported that firelight helped them sleep better and feel more relaxed. Lieutenant Somin Choi had been assigned to oversee cultural exchange programs between humans and other species. She found herself constantly amazed by how much the galaxy was changing. A year ago, humans were considered too primitive to sit on the Galactic Council, she told Captain Jihoon during one of their regular meetings. Now we're teaching advanced civilizations how to make fire. It's funny how the universe works, Jihoon replied. Sometimes the oldest solutions are the best solutions. The most dramatic changes were happening in the restored systems. When the tenders rebuilt a dead solar system, they didn't just recreate what had been there before. They improved it, adding new features that made planets more stable and beautiful than they had ever been. In the restored Andromeda system, they had created a planet with aurora that never faded, powered by the interaction between the solar wind and carefully shaped magnetic fields. In the Kepler restoration zone, they had built a series of artificial moons that provided perfect light cycles for agriculture. But perhaps the most impressive project was happening right in Earth's solar system. A group of tenders had volunteered to help terraform Mars, using their abilities to shape the planet's atmosphere and magnetic field, while human engineers provided the firelight needed to guide their work. Engineer Dongyun Kang, now directing the Mars project, sent regular updates to Admiral Jisoo. The tenders can do in months what would have taken us centuries, his latest report stated. Mars will be ready for colonization within 2 years with an atmosphere, water cycles, and even preliminary ecosystems. Not everything was perfect. Some of the older alien species struggled to accept the new partnership with the tenders. There were political tensions as traditional power structures shifted to accommodate humanity's new role as mediators between the galaxy and the ancient gardeners. But progress continued. The Coalition of Light established new protocols for exploration and restoration. Before any system could be colonized, tenders would first check it for hidden damage from their ancient hunger period. Human teams would then establish firelight beacons to ensure safe communication with the gardeners. One evening, Dr. Minji and Engineer Taehyun were working late in their laboratory aboard the New Dawn station. They were analyzing data from the latest restoration projects when Taehyun made an unexpected discovery. Minji, look at this, he said, pointing to a series of readings on his screen. The tenders aren't just restoring old systems. They're making them better than they were originally. What do you mean? The stars they're creating are more stable. The planets have better resource distributions and the orbital mechanics are more efficient. It's like they're applying billions of years of experience to create perfect solar systems. Dr. Minji studied the data with growing excitement. They're not just gardeners. They're master gardeners. They learned from every system they destroyed during their corrupted period. This discovery led to a new phase of cooperation. Instead of simply restoring what had been lost, the Coalition of Light began planning entirely new systems designed from scratch. Worlds specifically created for different types of life. Stars tuned to provide optimal energy for various purposes, and cosmic structures that could support massive populations. The project that would define the new era was announced 1 year after the battle. The coalition would create a new galactic capital, not a single planet, but an entire solar system designed to house representatives from every species, including the tenders. The system would have 7 planets, each designed for different environmental needs. Orbital habitats would provide homes for species that preferred artificial environments. And at the center, a carefully crafted star would provide the perfect balance of energy and firelight to keep everyone comfortable. Admiral Jisoo Chen, now serving as the first president of the Coalition of Light, announced the project from the bridge of her flagship. "We will call it the Unity System," she said. "It will be a symbol of what we can accomplish when we work together, the youngest species in the galaxy and the oldest, using fire and darkness in harmony." Captain Ji-hoon Park was chosen to lead the Unity System construction project. As his ship, the Aurora's Dream, approached the empty region of space where the new system would be built, he reflected on how much had changed. A year ago, humanity had been struggling to find its place among the advanced civilizations of the galaxy. Now they were partners with ancient cosmic gardeners, teaching the universe to remember the power of fire. Beginning Unity System construction, he announced to the assembled fleet of human,